Call me successful.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of Call Me Successful. We're very excited to have with us Gavin Rubinstein. Now, this guy needs no introduction, but I'm going to say a few things about him. He's a leader in real estate, a leader in Sydney real estate. He's a TV star. He's one of the best leaders in the Raywire network, and he's always giving with his time. Gavin Rubinstein, welcome to Call Me Successful.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I'm a TV star, but all the rest of the stuff I appreciate. Thanks for having me, man.
No, you're welcome. Thanks, mate. You definitely are a TV star. Everyone talks about you in that regard. I want to be a bit different today because I want to know what's the biggest misconception about you? And is that something that bothers you or you try to correct or it doesn't bother you at all?
People's opinion of me is none of my business. So I don't really care.
You don't really care.
Not really.
And that's been like the way you operate, right? Because there's always people that say bad things, good things.
Lots.
So, but one of the things that resonates with me, your clients, it's always like they sing your praises all the time, right?
Yeah.
So how has that evolved for you? Because where did you start your career and how did you become so client centric? What sort of got that out of you at the start?
Yeah, I think I've always been a vendor's agent since the beginning. I remember I was working on a deal, I think first year out on my own, so I would have been about 23. And market was really tough at that point, so very hard to create a sale. And it was a house in North Bondi worth about $3 million. Today it'd be like 9 or 8, just to give you an idea of how much it's grown. And I was in touch with a buyer from New York in communication over this property. And we were talking for maybe 2 weeks until they decided to book a flight and come out to Sydney. And they ended up coming out to Sydney and they came through the house and they liked it. And an hour after I left, I got a phone call from an inquiry to say that they also wanted to view the house. And the house wasn't sold yet, but me being somewhat inexperienced, flustered me a little bit. Am I doing the right thing? Is this ethical? And notwithstanding ending up booking the inspection, the new buyer comes through and the next day he says, look, I really like it. I want to make an offer. The couple from New York had also made an offer that afternoon. And so like most challenges that I faced at that stage of my career, I went to my principal of the business and I'm freaking out. Like, what do I do? This property's been sitting on the market. My owner's bought, they really want to sell. These people have flown out from New York to come and see the property, but this guy has just made a higher offer. And he said to me, never forget that the vendor pays your fee. This business will test you. There'll be trials, there'll be tribulations. There's going to be a whole bunch of, crazy highs and extreme lows. But if you always stay true to that fact, everything else will become very clear and easy to deal with. And from that point on, it's how I've run my business, right? I learned then and there that the vendor pays your fee. Your job, your duty is to the vendor. Your service is to the vendor. Yes, like you want to create a positive experience for the buyer. You want to get back to them quickly. You want to know your stuff. You want them to feel good. I'm not saying, completely disregard the buyer. We love buyers. Without buyers, we don't make sales. But my allegiance, my focus, my priority has always been to my vendors and to my client. And anybody who really knows me knows that. And so that's why, outside of things like the TV show and other dynamics of what has gone into, my real estate career, people's views and opinions have never really affected me. I care about the opinion of maybe 3 to 5 people. I love that saying that goes, when you believe them when they tell you you're great, you'll believe them when they tell you you suck too. So it's kind of, I focus on the work that I do, the commitment I've given this industry over the course of the last 17 years, the value I add to my client, the consumer being the vendor, and the support I give my team. And, I sleep really well at night.
So let me start this journey where you started in real estate, right? So you started as an associate.
Yep.
How long were you an associate for?
2 years.
2 years. So what led you to that moment that you realized, okay, I've got this, I got the skills, I want to do this on my own? What? Because at the moment, Gav, in the industry, everyone's in a hurry, right?
Yeah.
Like associates start 2 months, I want to be an agent.
Yeah.
1 month, I want to be an agent. But no one's willing to do that hard work to get there. That bugs me, and I know it bugs you as well.
Huge, yeah.
Can you talk to me about that journey?
Yeah, I think today the problem is, and I've said this before, too many people are fixated on, the result rather than what the journey is. And I wish I had a moment to tell you that I you know, arrived at this place to say I feel prepared and ready. But what had happened was I was contributing a significant amount of business to the agent that I was an associate for. And my intention was to continue to work with that agent moving forward because he was more experienced, he was older, he had gray hair, which really played in my market. And so I've always been of the view you go further together rather than on your own. And I sat down with him after that period and showed him the numbers around what it was that I was contributing. And I was contributing X and I was being remunerated at Y. And I wasn't looking for anything that was crazy outside of the box, not partnership, anything like that. I think I was getting paid 2.5 grand a month. So I was bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars and I didn't want to be paid in lieu with that. I wanted to be paid just a little bit more than what I was making in order to feel appreciated. And he turned around and he said, I'm the senior, I'm the agent, you're the junior. And I knew the work that I did and the value that I added. So I just couldn't accept that. And it just so happens that the owners of that business also recognized the work I did and the value I added, because it's one of those industries whereby if you are very serious about what you do and you put in the effort and you really become obsessed with being great, you stand out. And so then they supported my journey of becoming my own agent and off we went.
And that's the thing about our industry. The numbers don't lie, do they?
No.
Everyone can see the numbers.
Yeah.
Conversely, do you think there's a problem at the moment with agents not being able to see those numbers with their associates and giving them a pathway to that success? Has that changed your opinion or mindset as to how you train associates and how you, because you've got some great agents in your business.
Super high quality.
And all these agents have started with, no disrespect to them, they started with nothing with you.
Correct.
You've built them up. Has that set the foundation for you in your journey as well that you've come through?
Yeah, I think, well, we talk about people in today's day and age wanting to become an agent after a month. Let's use, and park me for a minute, Oliver Lavers, who's, a partner of mine, really good friend of mine, someone who is incredible in the industry. He was my first associate and an associate for 5 years before he went out on his own. 5 years isn't a month. That's a long period of time.
Long period of time.
But he was relentlessly committed for 5 years and then, hit the scene with a bang, wrote $1 million in his first year, and he's done 5 for the last 2 years. There's not one size fits all. There's one rule. I think time in learning is absolutely key. You've got to learn the art of the deal. You've got to learn the practice. You've got to learn the skill set that goes into being a real estate agent. And then it's kind of what you do from there. I think it comes down to a man's and or a woman's will at the end of the day with regard to how much they want to commit to the process, to the industry, to real estate. And, I don't think everybody has it. So to answer your question about, potentially when they started with me, they may not have had anything, but, they've had the will to want to get to that level of excellence that I've helped get them to. And along the way, I've, profited not only monetarily, but from an array of reasons that, never makes me feel disgruntled or have resentment towards them. Quite the contrary. If someone excels and develops and shines and does really well under my tutelage or under the brand or using TRG as a platform or following what I did as a blueprint or listening to my advice, it gives me an insane amount of energy and motivation to power through. So it's been great to watch and want to continue to build people like that for sure.
So one of the things in the industry, I mean, it's always been said that you can't teach people motivation, but I feel like you've mastered it somehow, because I feel like you're not just teaching your people skill set, but you're teaching them motivation. Do you feel that is like that you've been able to impart that onto your people?
For sure. I think vibe attracts tribe. Tribe attracts vibe. Like, so naturally, particularly as the business is maturing, I mean, we're 5 years, 6 years old now. We've really kind of found our groove, if you like, with regard to who we are, what we represent, what we stand for, and so on. And I think like TRG as a whole is motivated and anchored by progression. We want to get better today than we were yesterday. Right. And we want to have a better year this year than we did last year, irrespective of what the market is doing and other factors that are outside of our control. So I think people just get the deal when they sign up. Right. And when they join the firm, they know it's there's not going to be much that's mediocre about what we do from here. Right. We want to really go after it every single day. And I think just naturally my leadership style, whether it be with agents who are independent contractors or even within my own team, is essentially strategies that I followed myself and had success with, through my rise as an associate to then agent to the number one performer in the group for however many years I was number one for. And I'm rigorous around that. So we actually honor our associate contributions at TRG. We run associate competitions at TRG around whoever generates the highest GCI for their team. And on the sales board, there'll be top agent, top team, listing, sales, and then the top associate for the financial year. So I've taken a lot of what has worked for me and applied it to the business, as a whole, and that seems to be working pretty well.
So let's talk about this thing we spoke about earlier. It's sometimes to go forward, you have to go back first, right? I feel like I'm going to talk about your business career as well, but when you started real estate in terms of a full-time agent from the associate role, I don't think you've ever gone back to go forward.
I did my second year out. So I started off and I wrote whatever I wrote at the time. And then the next year, because I thought it was easy, right? I got complacent and I thought, this is just going to keep rolling. 1 year I've done this, next year I'm going to do more just automatically. And I didn't necessarily back up that ambition with the work ethic. And so then I went backwards by about 100,000 in GCI. And that was enough motivation and enough of a feeling to not want to do that again. And then it's been pretty forwards from there.
So the most competitive market in real estate in Australia by far is the suburbs of Sydney.
Yeah.
You go to be an agent.
Yep.
How do you find vendors? Because that's your main forte now, vendors. You take care of your vendors.
Sure.
What does Gavin Rubinstein do to say, hey, I'm going to outlist everyone in my marketplace? What does it look like on a daily for you? What do you do different?
Yeah.
Because everyone's in the search for the silver bullet, right? I feel like your silver bullet was not something unique, but you managed to find that silver bullet for you.
Yeah. I love a saying I heard not too long ago that said, you escape competition through authenticity.
I love that.
Right? So if you do things that are natural to you, you're naturally going to stand out because it's not effort. You're not trying too hard. So I think the first point, and I know you hear a lot of people say it, is I really wholeheartedly have been authentically myself and done things that are natural to me since the beginning. And so what that looks like is, I've always liked the big houses. I've always liked the big houses. I've always liked anything that's luxury. I've got, a real appreciation for high quality in all aspects of life. So naturally I was aligned with the market I was targeting and now, represent. That was the first thing. The second thing was I had a plan that was really clear around what it was that I wanted to do. And my actions every single day mapped towards my ambitions, right? So I didn't waste time. Third point was I really identified what I needed to do in the business in order to excel. And so I think in any of the talks I've done, any of the podcasts I've spoken on, I've got like an insatiable appetite for learning, progression, getting better. And that's never changed. And it's no different today than when it was, when I started. I'm a lot more knowledgeable, one would hope, but I still have so much to learn and really enjoy and am motivated by that process. And so, I looked at the agents in the most competitive market in the country and who they stood for, what they did, what their silver bullet was, and try to work out the pattern. What was it that made these guys successful? And identified that they were all different. They looked different, they acted different, they had different processes, but they were somewhat aligned by 2 points. The first point was they all worked extremely hard, like prioritized their work, had a passion for it. It was a lifestyle, not just a job. And the second point was they all had this thing called profile, which is another interpretation for brand and is essentially a byproduct of the first point, which is hard work. And so those three things I focused on ultimately put me in I guess, the position that I'm in now.
So one of the things that younger agents I speak to all across the country, they're fearful of rejection. They're fearful of losing. Early days, Gavin Rubinstein goes in, say a $6 million house. It's probably worth 50 million now. How do you take it if they go to you, Gav, thank you so much, but we're going to go with someone else? It's a big loss, right? Because you're trying your best, you're building your brand. It's a big house. It's
Yeah.
great. It's overlooking the harbor, whatever it is.
Yeah.
How do you
Career
bounce-
changing stuff.
career changing
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
career defining stuff? How do you recover the next day? Because it seems like you don't get knocked out. You keep going and going and going.
A couple of stories come to mind to answer that question. I remember when I was looking for my first job in real estate. This is before I started at Ray White. And I approached all the directors of the main firms in Double Bay because I wanted the big houses. I knew I needed to be in Double Bay at that time in order to sell them. There was one guy who is now a buyer's agent who I applied for. And I ended up getting him on the phone. Like I was 19 years old calling the directors of these businesses. I don't know where I had the chutzpah to do that. That's a word for like cheek. But I did anyway. And I remember saying to him, he had a lot of market share at the time. I remember saying like, I'll add value to your business. I just need to learn about the game, the business, and I will return the favor to you in value. You won't be disappointed. And so we had a couple of conversations and he ends up calling me a day later and he's like, look, I've decided I'm just too busy to train someone that's new to the industry who's green. You know, I wish you all the best. Hang up the phone. And I remember thinking to myself, this is before anything, before any wins in the real estate industry. I remember thinking to myself, like, I need this position. I need to be in Double Bay in order to get to where I want to go. So I called him back after he had said no to me. And I said, I think you're making a big mistake. And he was like, what? And I'm like, give me the opportunity. I will not let you down and you will thank me in years to come. And he was a little bit shocked because he's like, oh, here I was, young kid, 19 years old, knew nothing, hadn't done anything at that point, ran a couple of nightclubs in London. And he said to me, you know, just purely off the fact that you are not taking no for an answer and you've called me back and you're showing this persistent nature already tells me how successful you're going to be in this industry. So like, I'm probably going to regret this, but I just don't have the capacity to do it. Lo and behold, about 3 or 4 years later, I ended up taking a big chunk of his market share, right? At another firm. But so that, you know, it's all about being persistent, not giving up, you know, not taking the first no to heart, never getting bitter, always getting better. If I look at, and this is the second part to answer your question, the early stages of being a real estate practitioner, when I was only just listing and selling, I was a bad loser. Like I was a really bad loser. And I remember I was on a real purple patch, momentum high swing. I was listing a lot. And I said to one of my mentors at the time, I was like, man, I can't lose. Everything I've gone for, I've listed. And he looked me back in the face and he said, you're not going for enough. And it flipped my thought process on its head. And I'm like, he's right. Because this is a numbers game at the end of the day. And so then I started going for more and more and more. And then I think I really got comfortable with losing when I went through the transition of real estate practitioner into business owner and that whole experience. But what's interesting is after welcoming the understanding of what it was to really lose, that put me in a position to win like I've never won before. So I wholeheartedly believe that winning and losing go hand in hand. I think if you let a lost listing or a bad negotiation or a mistake mentally handcuff you from the next deal or the next negotiation, you're going to get very deep, dark, a hole of real estate, and it's going to be very, very hard to climb out. I welcome opportunities where I lose on the basis of understanding that I've done my best to control the controllables. If I didn't, I learned from that, put that in the little part of my brain that's called experience, and I move forward with the basis of having progression and being able to apply that value to myself, my business, my clients, you know, and the people I work with. And it's been really helpful.
So when you speak about controllables, one of the things that I feel like looking from afar in Brisbane, maybe 5-6 years ago, that defined you in this state was the way you present yourself and the way you present property.
Yep.
You know, everyone's trying to do that welcome home
course.
thing because they got it off Gavin.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
So what was the moment that led you to thinking like, I have to own the video space? Because you were doing it so many moons before anyone else.
Years ago. Yeah.
What led you to that? Because everyone's got those beautiful properties in the East, right?
Sure.
But the presentation was lacking. Like it was old, it was tired. You came in with this vibrant videos, walking through the house,
Yeah.
coming in with your nice car, which you'd never showed the number plate off. It looked like you were having a good time.
Yeah. Isn't that a saturated space now though? I mean, people flick through social, they see something like they're like, they vomit in their mouth and like, oh, you know, so it's so interesting how it's evolved. But going back to what I said before, right? I always did things that were natural to me. And that's how I eliminated competition. You talk about presentation and aesthetics. Fashion has always been something that, again, has been natural to me. I've always had a passion about that. I spent a lot of time designing either clothes with my tailor, or I'm big into fashion and shopping and collecting items, and have been over the course of, you know, however long I've been able to afford that. And if I wasn't in the real estate space, I'd probably be in that space. So again, just going back to what I said at the start, all of this was natural to me, and it helped me stand out. It helped me eliminate, you know, my competition. I never did anything that was necessarily uncomfortable or unnatural, and that wasn't geared towards being somewhat correlated to the market that I was representing.
Because how do you feel then when you actually hear people using your phrases or trying to present properties like you? Does it make you feel like you've changed the industry a bit? Because I was looking at a video the other day and someone said, "This is not a view." Gavin would say it's a panorama. Is that what you said? One in a TV show?
Yeah. No, I said that was actually once I said that in Real Estate Diaries. I love it, man. I look, I think I appreciate the journey that I've had in this industry, because like you heard me talk before, I wasn't really good at much else. And I found my niche as an 18, 19-year-old kid, and knew it, and knew that, you know, if I really became obsessed with being great or as good as I could be, and wholeheartedly obsessed with that, double down, triple down, everything else that I'd wanted in life, I was going to be able to get as a result of that. So I love it. I really, and it pushes me, right? It pushes me to be innovative as you can in the real estate space. Like, we're not rocket scientists over here. It's not that crazy. And I never want to think of myself as someone like that. But I mean, you know, you can't keep doing the same thing. What got you here is not what's going to get you there. And so naturally, it's made me think about different angles or other things to do in order to be somewhat a pink elephant, stand out, have an impact in the industry, and get noticed.
So we talk about our obsession, we talk about the love of the game.
Sure.
But one thing that stands out all the time in all the moves that you've made, it's the strategy behind it.
Sure.
Everything looks, it looks like you're enjoying it. It's fun, but everything is so strategic. I feel that the thinking is going on in the background all the time, and all the moves are calculated in a good way.
Sure.
I want to lead into what's the moment, and maybe it was a series of moments that led you to that decision. Look, I'm doing this. I'm doing well. I've been to the top. You've been to the top of the railway. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some crazy performers, right? Like,
Yeah.
we talk about Vivian Yang,
Yeah.
Matt Lang,
Legends. Yeah.
legends of the game, Dave Walker.
Yeah.
When do you decide I want to be a leader? Now I've got different goals. I want to add to that goals. What led you to that moment? It was a series of things that.
Yeah. No. You just got me thinking about some things and making me smile. So it was actually not too dissimilar to the experience I had from an associate to an agent. I know some people are going to listen to this and say it's cliche and it's airy-fairy or whatever the case may be. But my formula, yes, it's been strategic, but my formula I've kept somewhat simple, right? I've always been really super clear on what it is that I want. That's the first step. The second step is I've put in the work and given the sacrifice in order to get it, but like really put in the work and sacrifice in order to get it. And the universe ultimately then delivers it to me, right? So it's two-part, but then the byproduct is most of the time, actually all of the time, if not exactly how you think it is in your mind, somewhat close to it. So I think life, you know, kind of rewards effort if you're genuinely putting in the effort and doing the work. And it's one of those industries where you can fake doing that for a little bit, but it'll expose you if you're faking it really. At the same time, it will heavily reward you if you really are sacrificing, putting in the effort, doing what you need to do in order to succeed in the game, right?
One of my coaches, Josh Figan, I know you do a bit of work with Josh as well.
Nice
It
guy.
kind of remind me what he says is it's all about the execution, right? So people know where they want to go, but no one's executing out there. They're executing like 50%.
Correct.
And they're moving on. Feels like you just execute
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
So I went to your Willara office probably three
While ago,
months,
while ago.
while ago.
Yeah.
It sort of has the sense that it feels like TRG, feels luxe,
Yep.
feels like premium.
Yep.
Same with the Rose Bay office, right?
Yep.
Like you feel like you can sort of understand in the office why you did Rose Bay.
Yep.
But when you actually step out the office, then it actually really hits you as to why you did it right. Then the strategy walks in. Because was it more about the location and where it was
Of course.
than actually the building itself?
Yeah, of course. I think it was a combination, right? So there's no other firms in Rose Bay. So how do we stand out? That was number one. Number two was if you're in a big house up in Rose Bay in the best streets, Vaucluse, Watson's Bay, you've got to connect and drive past the office. And it was just a new space that, for a personal investment strategy I could get on top of and involved with, and then be able to create, which I really enjoy. I enjoy design, architecture, fashion, all of these things that are natural to me. Building, finishes. I've done quite a lot of it over the course of the last 15 odd years. So I knew it would position us well in the marketplace in order to stand out and indemnify what we do for our clients. And that's just what it's all about. Like you talk about a lot of this stuff, it makes me smile, and it's been great and part of the journey. But probably what I love most about what you have said so far is, when you hear my clients talk about me, they say incredible things. And that's every move I make, all of the strategy that you talk about is all designed and executed to make sure that happens. Because if that continues to happen, we'll just continue to have the momentum, and it's going to go up and up and up. Ultimately, that's just what it's about at the end of the day.
So when I speak with you, when I look at your results, I feel like that you'll excel anywhere with any brand, independent, whatever it is, right? The question you probably get asked more than me is, you chose to stay with the Ray White family during the Wallara move.
Yes.
Why are you still with Ray White? Like
Yeah.
we all get asked the same thing,
Sure,
but
sure.
yours will be 20 times more than us.
Yes.
Why still Ray White, Gavin? Why was that choice with partnering with Ray White in the Wallara venture?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. There are a couple of people who work at that organization that I have enormous respect for and learned a lot from. Three guys off the top of my head is Jason Andrew, is Mark McLeod, is Dan White. And I get a lot of value from them, and they give the business TRG, not just me individually, but the business TRG a lot of value. That's the first point. The second point is I love the competitive nature and the platform being, Australia's largest real estate brand. And like you said, having such high quality salespeople and businesses depend not only my personal performance on, but the business's performance on. Like, Michael Jordan in the 90s, when he was with the Bulls, had the Pistons that they were chasing. They beat him year after year. It took him 7 or 8 years to win his first championship.
He got beaten up a lot getting there.
Got beaten up a lot, right? But they brought the best out of him as a competitor. It wasn't all butterflies and rainbows, but that unlocked a skill set, created a character in him that completely dominated. So I think it's always good to have people or things to chase. And just competing with the best in the country has always put me in a really good position to remain energized, remain motivated, remain inspired, and continually wanting to excel, even up to year 17. So, I was just saying it up before, right? Like, unfortunately, physically, I was never going to play basketball, but the awards and the recognition is my championship for the work, the time, the effort, the sacrifice that we give our clients year in, year out. And, when you get to benchmark yourself among the best and some of the best businesses, that can be extremely rewarding when channeled correctly. So when you take those 2 points, just nowhere else I'd rather be. You'll be comfortable, working with.
That's amazing. And so when people talk about Gavin at the moment, they almost forget in a way that you're going to write over 7 million this year, right? Your team will, because the whole chat is Gavin's now a born leader, more transformative leader, is building people.
Yeah.
But when you look at the background, you're like, hang on a second, this guy's still fucking writing $7 million DCI. How have you found that balance? Because there's not many people that do that, right?
Yeah.
There's not many people. I mean, Dave Walker, yourself, Vivian, there's Matt, there's just select people that can write those figures.
Yeah.
and still lead a team and grow it. So how have you managed to find that balance? Is it something you worked on or just naturally happened? Because again, you love what you do.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I'm a real estate salesperson. Like you said at the start of this conversation, how should I introduce you? I'm thinking of so many things. And I said to you, I said, this is Gav Rubinstein, the real estate agent, right? And I think like at the core of what I love the most, it is 100% the art of the deal. And now what's coming a close second is really building and developing people. And so when you have that combination, it's I don't see it slowing down for the next, I got 20 years of power left in me, right? At least 15 to
20. Wow, that's
15 to
amazing.
20, 15 to 20. And what's helped me a lot is attracting, identifying, and then building really high level talent. So when you break down my immediate team, you've got a guy called Evan Chung, you've got a guy called Matt Kemeny, who's here today. You've got a phenomenal EA in Montana Holgate. And we collaboratively write that number that you mentioned, which is great. But these guys are, fully fledged operators in their own right. And training them and working with them, is being in the field with them every single day, is great. That's the first part. The second part is, and this is just my view, doesn't mean it's right. If you want to retain high level talent, you've got to offer them something in terms of value. And so if at any time or point, and it'll happen at some stage, that someone in the office or a team in the office writes higher numbers than me, at that stage, what can I help them with? Now, there's a few things that I can find, but to be able to say to somebody, if I've passed a certain price range on a GCI earning, you can do this extra, do that, move that a little bit there in order to get there, is all the top performer really needs in order to break through. And so I pride myself on, I guess, leading from the front and showing people that excuses mean nothing, right? Everyone talks about how busy they are, how much they got going on, how much life beats them down. And like you just said it, doing everything else that I'm doing and still managing to maintain a team to write such high level numbers, hopefully dismantles, excuses for others and gives them hope that, like, if I can do it with everything else I've got on my plate, so can you. And I think that's given my guys a lot of energy, is just given how relatable I am and how simple, I guess, my practice is, because I like to keep it as simple as possible. Didn't come from a family background, didn't have a cousin or an uncle or an auntie or a mother in real estate before I started. There's nothing like that. If I can do it, really anybody can. And ultimately, that's just, I guess, part of my message.
So your third office, Hunters Hill.
Yep.
Why Hunters Hill?
Again, people are going to listen to this and say, this guy's airy fairy universe, crazed. But I started getting calls after the TV show about listing appointments. I get calls all across Australia for crazy listing appointments. And I've got a criteria now that I only follow, but a couple in Hunters Hill. And I really enjoyed the process when I sold my first property there. What I mean by that was, there wasn't hard press on my fees. The vendors weren't like overbearing and high, heavy maintenance. The people coming through open homes were lovely, like so nice, polite. It just felt great being at work, opening all these houses on a Saturday. And then I looked around at the competition and just thought there was opportunity. And it really just came off the back of that. It felt good. It was natural to me.
Just organic,
and just organically, I said, look, there's not many operators here. There could be a big opportunity to do so. And it's also been a very interesting piece of my journey now, Hunters Hill, because the gentleman who's with me for 4 years, who I started it with, has since, just in the matter of the last month, left the industry, gone into fitness. He's a great dude, and I wish him luck. And it's just lucky that in the less than year we've been open, we've got 2 other really good agents who are stepping up with responsibility and everything that comes with it in order to break through there, but not too different to what you said about several steps back and having to accept that in order to slingshot forward. So learning a lot there and looking forward to giving that energy, because there is a gap there and we will fill it. It's just not going to be as linear as say, the other offices that we've done. And I welcome that.
So what's after Hunters Hill? What's the next suburb? Is it going to be the same feel that you get? Because when you say you've got 15, 20 years, I feel like there's a lot more openings coming.
Look, that's not where my energy is at. I said at the start of last financial year, I've always managed track goals. I reset them every 3 months, every 6 months, read them every morning. That's my purpose. And I'm very clear with what it is that I'm chasing. And started this financial year, now 17 years in, we've had some success. We've had lots of lessons. My MO is like, I just want to have fun. Like, I just want to keep it that simple. I've given so much to the industry. I've got so much more to give it. Burn out, something that I've always been fastidious about managing, right? You see a lot of great guys burn out. I just want to have fun in everything that I do, whether it's listing, whether it's selling, whether it's marketing, whether it's holidays, and make and create memories with the people I love that I'll remember forever. Like, that was my MO going into this year. It just so happens I've had the best year of my career personally, and the team combined has. Now, you can call that coincidence, you can call it luck, you can call it really whatever you want, but I think I'm in a good space and I'm content, right? I really, with regard to Hunters Hill, has huge scope to grow and build. That's going to need the most amount of energy from me moving forward. Wallara has huge scope to build, get better. Rose Bay's, I think we've got 5 or 6 seats left. My whole approach there has changed as well. I haven't been in an aggressive build phase mode for a long time. The last 3 agents we've recruited, Ben Goodwin, Adam Regan, James Nixon, have been 3 of the best recruits since inception. They're 3 of just insanely good people first before being great agents, and they're great agents too. And that's come purely from attraction. So I've learned to be more patient, but a hell of a lot more effective, and to do it on TRG's terms, which has resulted in some pretty good things. So I'm going to continuously learn and evolve, but stick to that for a while and just have fun with it, man.
Just going to finish with a couple of questions. If you weren't selling in Sydney, where would you sell?
Either LA or New York.
I knew you were going to say
Either LA or New York. And
is that because you can get to the Lakers game by easily?
Just easy access. You know, I love America. If my business wasn't what it was, ingrained in the soil of Sydney, you can't pick that up and move it, right? And then, like I said, what I've given it over the last 17 years, I couldn't redo that. I would be living in the States, land of milk and honey. I know it's got its own problems, but I love the market in LA. Got a lot of good friends in LA. Josh Altman's one of my good mates. He kills it over there. And New York, I've only started to love in the last 3 to 4 years. But I think, look, if I had to pick one, yeah, it would be LA.
Definitely LA.
Yeah.
The last question, you kind of answered this along the way, but what does success look like to Gavin Rubinstein?
That's a good question. How do I put that into words? What does success look like to me? I think success is something that you ultimately never reach, but are always in the pursuit of. And so, that's my view of it anyway. I think if you take the view or the standpoint of, hey, I'm successful and I've made it or I'm there, I think that's when you lose. And so that would be the way I would approach that.
It's very Brian White-like, isn't it? Because he says there's no finish line. That's it.
Oh, yeah, he does. Yeah. Look, I think that keeps you honest, man. Keeps you honest, keeps you working hard, and ultimately, right, the real ones in this business know that that's what it's about.
Gavin Rubinstein, we've really enjoyed watching your success. You're doing it your own way. You're doing it with class, and we can't wait to see where it goes for TRG. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Steve.